Welcome to Meet the Creators, a podcast dedicated to the art of business and the business of art. Meet the creative minds behind marketing campaigns, commercials, business, and art. Tune in to better understand the value of creative minds in marketing and business as we build the bridge between business and creative artists. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Meet the Creators podcast. My name is Michael Ogata. I am a cinematographer in the Bay Area, part of Flipbirdfilms, and I am with the artist Hueman. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm having a good time checking out the studio. There's so much color here, and I know that you put some pieces up and painted the whole building.
Yeah, I painted the exterior and interior of Art House in Oakland, and I started in 2017, at the end of 2017, and I think it was in 2019 that I finally finished it. So it was a big project.
Nice. And we're here. I know you're from the Bay, and so am I. We actually known each other for quite some time. And how is it just making art in Oakland and just being part of the Bay?
I mean, I love the Bay. It's where I grew up. It's home. My family's here. Everyone's here. And the Bay just has such a great creative community. And with everything going on with tech has moved in here for the last 10 to 15 years. And I feel like it's almost like a responsibility of mine to keep creativity here. We're losing a lot of creatives to LA and to all sorts of places. And, the Bay Area has always been such an amazing place for the arts. So I really want to keep it here. So I'm really happy with the community that I've made and grown here. Yeah, just got to keep it in the Bay.
Keep it in the Bay. Thank you for having us once again. Tell me a little bit about the type of art that you do.
So the art that I make, it kind of varies. I do visual art, but it just, whatever you can throw visual art on. So murals, canvases. I license my artwork for products. So shoes and makeup products and shirts and all sorts of stuff like that. I also work a lot with Augmented Reality. And I also, with my upcoming show, Homebody, I'm also designing entire immersive experiences. So that's something new that I hopefully get to do more of in the future.
There's a lot to unpack there. I want to get to Homebody, but how did you get started working and moving into working with brands? How did that work naturally?
I want to say I've been doing art full time for about 10 years now. So a lot of it was just I lived in LA for 10 years. So a lot of it was just kind of hustling in LA and just doing a lot of self-initiated projects, going to art shows and being part of the community out there. And I do think being in LA played a big part of it, just because so many brands are in LA. So you're bound to meet someone who works with some brand who might end up having an opportunity for you or something. So I was lucky in that regard. But I think it was especially after I started doing street art that people started to recognize me and my work. Because when you think about it, street art is you've basically got a huge billboard advertising your art, And so my work would become part of people's everyday landscapes from when they would see my work on their commute to work or something, or on their way home, they would get familiar with seeing my art. And so I think because of that, and because of just being visually bombarded, I guess you could say, with my art, especially in LA, because I painted so much in LA. I think, that's how a lot of people ended up becoming familiar with me. And so now I just get a lot of messages from brands. Just sometimes I don't know how they find me. I think I've been doing it for so long too. A lot of it is word of mouth. And I like to think I'm a good person to work with. People have told me that I'm a pleasure to work with. So I think that also helps when they know someone that also has a project and they're like, hit Hueman up. She was great to work with, you know. Being not an asshole goes a long way.
It's true, yeah. In terms of art and like not being an asshole and reputation, it really carries. How important is it to network and like, you know, have people support you, but also support their art and like the journey of the community?
I hate the word network, but it's so important to build a community. And to not do it in like a grimy way, you know, you don't want to go to like networking events and be like, so what do you do? You know, like, why are you here? Because it's not a transactional thing. Just getting to know people with the same passion and interest in creating is just always good. And just being genuinely excited for other people and their projects and keeping that energy around you, it really goes a long way. Because even if you meet someone that, you know, you don't necessarily land on the same type of like work, eventually you're gonna think of them down the line later on when you've got a friend that needs someone who does video or who does like graphics or whatever. And I like being that person for a lot of people. I love connecting people because it also just makes your community feel smaller when you've got like all these people around you that are helping each other. And I know we're gonna get into Homebody later, but that's a big part of Homebody is that I was connected to one person who connected me to another person and I connected them. And then all of a sudden it felt like this huge Bay Area community just got so much smaller because now everyone knew each other and we're all hyped on the same thing because we're building together. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, you know, community and supporting each other. And I just admire everyone who's dedicated to their craft. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, because I just love seeing how people could just work on their craft, but also it's hard to just survive off your craft as an artist. And, you know, you got to pay the bills. How did you make this sustainable? Was it hard at first, or is there any tips, or is it just a natural progression?
And when you're young, like in your 20s, you've got your health and you've got time on your side. And so you can afford to make more mistakes than someone who's later in life. But, you know, I also believe if you are later in life, it's never too late to start pursuing your passion. But I especially feel like if you're young and you have this big idea, you better like go for it now, just because you've got time to like work it out and figure out, okay, well, if this isn't for me, I tried it, you know, and I'm going to move on. Or you've got the time to like work on it and figure it out.
No, I agree. I try to tell like all our younger filmmakers, like, number one, you have time and you don't have as many constraints and responsibilities. And take that time just to learn from everyone. Like experiment, see what you like. Yeah, do you like painting? Do you like drawing? Just experiment. There's nothing to lose. Totally. Perfect. Yeah, let's kind of like talk about Homebody. Tell me about how this project came into fruition.
So I've always been big into immersive experiences. I think the one show that I went to was called Ecstasy at Mocha in LA. That was the big one that really like made me decide, damn, I want to get into immersive experiences. And so Ecstasy at the Mocha, they brought together a bunch of different artists. I believe James Turrell was one of them, and Kusama was one of them. And they all created these installations. There were different rooms, and the concept was the feeling of being under the influence of drugs. So it was very much about drug culture. But the feeling I got stepping into a space where the art is surrounding you fully, like that just like blew my mind. And I'm not sure what room I was in. It could have been James Turrell, but it was just light in a room. And I remember not being able to see where the room ended or started. Like I couldn't see any corners or anything. So I was just like, I'm afraid to keep walking or else I'm gonna like fall off a cliff or like just trip or something, run into a wall. And that kind of blew my mind. And I was like, damn, I wanna do something where I just like take people to a completely different place. And so recently with like social media and Instagram, immersive experiences have become this huge thing. A lot of the times it's for the Instagram photo op, but I think people just enjoy experiences, you know, like they want something to do with their friends. But I mean, you see places, I don't want to like name names and start dissing like other experiences and being like, you know, but some of them are dedicated to old dead white guys or are purely just about the Instagram capture, you know, like, oh, here's a spot that'll make a good picture. And it's like, there's so much more that can be done with immersive experiences. Like a space can tell a story, a space can transport you. And so I really wanted to find a way that, you know, that we can make something that was more meaningful, but also just like really dope and like fun to attend. So that's the long story of how I even became interested in doing something like this. So it's always been a dream of mine, but I never had like the capital to work with or the team, or really, I don't even think I was there in my art career. Like I wasn't ready yet to pull something like that off. But I was recently introduced, well, not recently, a year ago, I was introduced to Cecilia, who is the co-founder and owner of CL Studios in Berkeley. And once we met, we just like hit it off. We both are Filipino-American women from, well, I'm from Fremont and she's from Union City. So I was just like, when I met her, I was like, oh, wait, I feel like I've known you all my life. She created this beautiful, beautiful space in Berkeley where they have a lot of like video and photo productions and stuff and event productions. And so when we came together, you know, I presented my idea to her, and from there we just went off and teamed up with Endeavor's Oakland. They do a lot of community-based like projects and stuff, and then we just like kept growing from there. The concept of Homebody was looking at, I mean, we've all basically become homebodies, right? After the pandemic, I mean, we're still in it. We're 2 years in now. But we've all had to become homebodies for a good amount of time. And even though we all had different experiences during the pandemic, I feel like there were definite phases that we all went through as a society. And that time was really traumatic for a lot of people. We all as a society have this collective trauma that we've dealt with from being in the pandemic for 2 years. And I think we're so eager to go back to normal. And it's not back to normal yet with the Omicron surge and everything. Things are not back to normal, but we really need it to in order for things to just like, I don't know, it really just threw everything through a loop for most people. We've gone through so much mentally, and I feel like we haven't really had the chance or the space to look back and like process what we just went through. Because so many people lost their jobs, lost their businesses, kids lost like normalcy and going to school. I know people that got divorces, that broke up, that, you know, there was a lot going on. And I feel like Homebody is a way to process what we went through and hopefully help us to move on in the right direction. And there's a lot of shit, sorry, can I say that? A lot of shit happening around us, right? Like we got a climate crisis and political unrest and just like a lot of just different stuff with like politics. And it was a lot to take in and like process. Yet most of the time we're still in our homes, safe and sound for the most part. But now everything that's been happening around us is like changing us from the outside in. And I think a lot of this like self-reflection and stuff really is causing us to change and causing us to look at ourselves in a new way. Like people created new businesses in the pandemic. People pivoted and they're like, well, I used to do this, now I do this now. We've really had to figure out a way to just make it work, change, but also it's changed us mentally. And so I imagined our houses acting as like a chrysalis, like a butterfly. So we're like literally changing on the inside. And hopefully, I mean, this is like the optimistic phase, is hopefully we can emerge from this, the pandemic, and just everything we've gone through as like better changed people. Because we've taken into account everything we've gone through in the last 2 years. I know that's like a very optimistic standpoint, but that's just where I hope we can move to as a society. Otherwise, we have to go through that whole circular phase again. And it's funny because CL, the way the installation is set up is you do walk through a circle. And so it's up to you if you want to keep going in the right direction or if you want to go back into the circle and just keep going through that loop, because we don't want to keep going through that loop. And as it stands now, it kind of feels like we are.
I'm glad that you're feeling optimistic, or at least building that and that hope, because we do need that. It's so important. I imagine this was therapeutic for you just to work through your art and make this as well.
I mean, it's like an existential crisis because I'm just like, damn, like, I don't know, I get really freaked out about the future. You know, I know a lot of us do, and at least like working through it with my art at least makes me feel like I'm getting some of it out, and it doesn't make me as anxious. But yeah,
I was a little lost too. I was like, I guess I'll just walk around by myself and take photos of like abandoned walls and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bunch of like projects cancel and stuff as soon as like lockdown happened. I had a few really big projects lined up, and when they all got canceled, I was just like, well, then what? You know, like I feel weird posting about my art, and then I feel now I can't even make money doing it. And I mean, luckily, time passed and like the projects came back and stuff, but I realized big time like I need to pivot in some way, because I like society, my art career can't keep functioning in the way that it used to for me. And then also for being a mom, like I already had to pivot, because before I had my daughter, I was traveling like 2 times a month. Like I was gone like a lot. And now I have to stay home. I've literally been a homebody. So it's figuring out, well, how am I going to make this work with a daughter at home who like needs her mom, you know? So yeah, there's a lot of like pivoting I've had to do career-wise and stuff.
Well, how does that work anyways? How do you balance like being a mother and being there for your child, and also like, you know, feeding your career, so let it go where it goes?
It's an art. Yeah, it's an art in itself. Like it's hard. Sometimes I take her to the studio with me, but that becomes impossible because she's a toddler now. So I don't know. And then with like COVID, her daycare keeps getting shut down, and it's a balancing act. And you know, I don't have it down, but I mean, daycare helps. Daycare, like knowing that she can go to school during the day while I work, is a big help. My parents come and watch her every so often, and then I just do a lot of stuff at night. I just try to figure it out. When she was a baby, like I was able to get her on a sleep schedule by month 5. So she was like down by 7 p.m. And then I would just come straight to the studio and just like work until 1 a.m. sometimes. It was crazy. It's still crazy. I'm definitely gonna take a break after Homebody. But yeah, it's just a lot of work. A lot of work.
Wow.
But I mean, luckily now I have a team of between like 4 to 5 people at one point. And they help out a lot. They definitely like take off the load of a lot of the stuff I do. because my artwork is so many like different parts, it's not just painting, it's also prepping the canvases and photographing everything and, just stuff like that. So now I've got like the manpower to help me with that. And I wouldn't have even put together a team if it weren't for Homebody. It became like a need that happened later in the year. And I was like, damn, I need some extra hands. And now they're like on, they're just like on with me for a while, I hope. So, so that helps a lot too. So I feel like I've got like a good just network community around me to help make that balance. But it's still hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. And I look at other people, I'm like, how are you doing it? Because this is hard.
That's why I was like, I want to catch up with you and ask you, because it's like, I think it's important. I learned also through the pandemic, like just to learn how to ask for help. Like don't just like leave yourself in a box. Like you got to ask for help from your parents, or like, hey, I need this and that.
It's always been hard for me to ask for help, at least when I was younger. In the last couple years, I've definitely opened myself up to it. And the more I open myself up to it, the more I realize so many people are willing to step in and help and want to help. And I don't mean just with like my daughter, but just in general and in the art world and everything. Just asking for help is a lot of times the first step,
Absolutely. I mean, it's a revolving door. I mean, I know you're helping others too. So thank you for just keeping open with the community. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit and ask you like a little bit of how does the augmented reality work? Are you using your phone?
Yeah, so a few of the paintings in the exhibit are going to be activated with augmented reality. So I've used a bunch of different programs, and AR was like, my journey with AR actually started in 2013 or 2012. I made an app back in 2013 as a way, and it was called HueView. And the plan was that people can use it to view my murals, and it would bring my murals to life. The technology wasn't really where I wanted it to be. So I kind of put like the AR stuff on hold like for a few years. In 2019, Adobe came out with Adobe Aero, which made AR so easy. So I filmed a campaign with them to like launch Adobe Aero. And that kind of like threw me back into the whole like augmented reality thing. So, but for this show in particular, I designed the AR experiences in Spark AR. That's the program that people use to create Instagram face filters. So all of these AR lenses will live on my Instagram profile, so that when people arrive to Homebody, they don't need to download, because most people have Instagram. So really they would just need to put the right filter over like a painting, and like something would pop out at you. There'd be a message, and you'd be able to like look at different layers in some of the paintings. And it's just like a new way of like looking at and experiencing art in a 3D space.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going to the show. I'll be there opening day, and I'll have my phone to check out all the secret messages and everything. Talk about, I mean, I think everybody's been doing this or interested. NFTs, how are you, how would you explain in your own words what NFTs are, if we can, and then like how are you incorporating that into your own art and business?
So NFTs, non-fungible tokens. I like to explain it to people as, so people like to buy prints of my artwork. And you could just print one of my pieces on your own printer, but that wouldn't be authenticated by me because it didn't come from my studio. It wasn't signed by me, or it doesn't come with a certificate of authenticity. But NFTs sort of act as this certificate of authenticity, because you can see ownership of whoever like created the work and who owned it previously, and there's like a ledger of how many times it's like switched hands and stuff. So in a big way, that like does a lot for artists, and it helps to prove like ownership of work. I think I've seen Gary Vee describe it as, you've got a blue check, right? The blue check is just a blue check. It lives digitally. It's like a few pixels big, But that means so much for a lot of people. It means credibility, it means popularity. And so some people really want that blue check. But you don't have it physically. You don't own a physical blue check. But that's kind of like how NFTs work, right? It's like a flex for people. Like, oh, I own this CryptoPunk. I own this Bored Ape. And then you show people your wallet and you're like, damn, you got one of those. I got this one, you know, and it's just with the way the world is moving, so much of what we experience is through our phones. And we're already flexing on Instagram, right? We're like showing people pictures of like the things we own or the things we do. So the NFTs kind of capitalize on that, because you can't, if you're an art collector, you only have so much space in your house, right? But if you've got a wallet full of NFTs, that's kind of like, well, I've got this collection here and you know how I own it. We can check, you know, the code and see like, this is, you know, I'm the true owner of this or that. And so, so that's how it brings value for a lot of people. But also something that amazing that it's done for artists is that you can set royalties on an NFT. That doesn't happen if one of these paintings gets sold. So as an artist, if I make and sell an NFT, I can set it up so that I make 10% royalties. So if an NFT that I sell then sells to someone else, I still get a part of that. And if they keep selling if it keeps changing hands, I still make money off of all of those transactions, which is huge for artists because, you know, once a piece leaves our studio, like sometimes it's just gone forever. We don't see, you know, like any of the transactions like after that. So that's why it's big for a lot of artists and it's created a lot of opportunity for a lot of artists. And so I'm actually creating an NFT collection that goes along with Homebody. And something cool that NFTs do is that it can create utility. So for example, if you own a Bored Ape, have you heard of Bored Apes?
Yeah.
If you own a Bored Ape, if you're a holder, you can go to their parties, their yacht parties. You can buy merch exclusive to Bored Ape. And like, I kind of see it as like the next like Supreme. Like it gives me very much Supreme and sneakerhead hype beast vibes. So like people want to be part of that exclusive community, especially now because like, I think they're like upwards of like $500,000 now for like one Bored Ape. That last time I checked, some of them sell for like millions or whatever. But yeah, so people want the utility of, I want access to parties. I want access to merch. I want access to this or that. But also what NFTs can do is they can provide access in other ways. So for my NFT collection, if you're an owner of an NFT, you automatically have access to like a VIP event, like whether it's Homebody or something else, you know? So, or like, NFT holders from Homebody will be able to get an exclusive print, stuff like that. So I'm gonna release that pretty soon. And yeah, and it's another way that I'm just trying to fund the show because Homebody is largely self-funded. It's costing a lot of money. And, you know, we've kind of tried to keep it very much community-based by not accepting like big corporate sponsorships, because once it becomes a corporate-sponsored thing, then it becomes an advertisement for them and less like integrity for the show. So NFTs, I feel like, are a way that a community can support a project. Like, regular people can buy an NFT and directly help fund the show. And we're using that money to like pay our vendors and like just all the costs that we've incurred from putting this together.
Also, I didn't think about how cool that is. I mean, it's great. Like you make a piece and you sell it for X amount of dollars and then, oh, cool, I heard that it sold for 100 times more.
Right.
That's great, but you don't get any of that.
Exactly, because when it resells, like usually it's a lot higher, you know, like especially as your brand grows and, you know, more people, like say I end up coming out with like a big project that ends up bringing my value up. So now like my NFTs become more valuable. And now someone else is willing to pay X amount to someone to own that NFT of mine. But then it's like, you know, if it's a regular painting, you don't get to see any of that. So.
Well, wow. Thank you so much for breaking down the NFTs because I really did not fully understand it. I think that's enough for this one. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you for letting us come into your studio. Everybody check out Homebody. It's going to be up here from when?
January 28th is when it opens and it runs until February 20th. So only 3 weeks. So make sure to check it out if you're in the Bay.
Check it out and check out Hueman's work too. You'll see it around. And all right, we're out.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Creators. I hope you found value in today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and please share with a friend.